we'll move on to the prepared speech section. And there I'll introduce Vamsi to talk about
Santosh.
the topic that Santosh is going to present. Vamsi, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I would like to apologize. I hadn't had a chance to connect with Santosh yet. I understand it's about a workshop about storytelling and narration. And Santosh, if you would like to add any other details, like to come upon and share more. So as your evaluator, I can be oriented towards that.
Thank you so much. Action speaks louder than words, and once you listen what I'm hearing, it's art of storytelling. So you get it. It's basically the idea is to empower you to tell a compelling story.
You're on.
I would like to welcome Santosh to the stage.
I vividly remember that day, like it was yesterday. I was holding my bundle of joy, my coffee cup. Suddenly, someone bumped into my cup. It tipped over. Hot coffee spilled over all of me. I was frustrated, agitated, and annoyed. I looked at the person. Fine. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you, why did the coffee spill? Because someone bumped onto me? No. Because there was a coffee in the cup. If had it been tea or juice or something else, it would have spilled.
First, you start with your friends too.
My question to you today, ladies and gentlemen,
Choose.
what's your story inside your cup? Resentment, frustrations, worries, or happiness, joy, and peace? Your story, you can create it. How many of you truly believe that we create stories? Let me tell you, we did not create stories. Stories created us. Let me take you back to the time before we were born, before the earth, before the moon, suns, Milky Way, galaxy, and before the universe. The dark energy we are entering, the pitch black darkness, suddenly even took place. Boom, 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 boom. Creation, Big Bang. Story began at the source of creation. Now, how many of you believe that you can make a compelling stories? So let me tell you, before we dive into talking about compelling story, what is a story, right? Let's put this way. Story is a sequence of events, timeline, historical facts. You can add on to it. But we all know stories was there, is there, will be there. So now, my question to you, ladies and gentlemen, how do we tap into that story, that consciousness which created us in first place? There are different types of stories, fictional, novels, tall tales. But today, I'm going to emphasize on art of personal storytelling. When I say it's an art, you have to understand it's progress, not perfection, right? There is no perfect storytelling, right? We're going to create an art right now. How many of you have been together? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Now, let me take you an evolution of a mankind. How many of you know there are 7 stages of a man? Before we came in, okay, that's good. So do you remember the last stage of a man, the modern man? Okay, I'm not talking in that, but I'm talking about Homo sapien. That's okay. It's a technical term, how we evoluted from species to really becoming a human. In the seventh stage, there are Homo sapien, 300,000 years ago. At that time, no language, no vocabulary, nothing. We were expressing through our facial expression, sounds, and we were painting, expressing the stories. Can you imagine that? The closest relative, can you name someone is your closest relative?
Chimpanzee.
Chimpanzee, monkeys, and gorillas, right? They have almost 99% of our DNA. You know, even they tell stories, right? They also can communicate, right? They all can tell stories. But what happened was, language was created, religious came, social activities improved, technological advancement happened, now AI came. But somewhere along the line, we have been conditioned by trying to impress instead of expressing the very authentic self of storytelling. You don't have to search for stories. Stories is what created you, right? We didn't create stories. Story created us. Today, we are going to dive into the personal story, how we can tap inside. Before I go there, there are two things we have to understand. There is a brain factor, that is called psychology, and there is a technique factor, how we represent the story, art of technique. First, I wanted you to focus and pay attention very carefully on the brain factors. I'm going to give my 5 fingers to you. The 5 neurotransmitters, very important role plays in human life. Without this, you don't wake up, I don't wake up. Dose, D-O-S-E, dose. I'm going to ask you, what is your daily dose? Remember this, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. These are the primary dose responsible for our activities, day-to-day activities. Moment you wake up, who goes to a bed thinking I'll be dead tomorrow? Let's put this way. Does anybody go to a bed thinking I'm not going to wake up tomorrow? You wake up tomorrow, how many of us have a cup of coffee, right? But one day or other, we're all going to die, we know that, but we don't think about it, right? What is that factor? Dopamine, reward system. Can I use the reward? So this is very, very important to understand how our brain works, then the technique will map it, okay? Remember dose, I made an acronym dose. Dopamine, reward system. O stand for oxytocin. It's another neurotransmitter which is known for love hormone or happy hormone. When mom bonds with the kid, friendship, camaraderie, pet, we get that love feeling, high emotion, right? Connection. That's called oxytocin. It's a neurotransmitter in our brain. S stands for serotonin. Serotonin is where when you connect with the nature, something beyond yourself. It's a sense of fulfillment, sense of accomplishment, something greater than you. Like you connect with the nature, right? Look at the sun, moon, stars, beyond yourself. Serotonin is another neurotransmitter. E stands for endorphins. This is called natural pain reliever. When you exercise, you get that pain. Remember? Ease of pain, reduction, right? That you get it in our brain. Dose. There's one more finger, very important finger called GABA. GABA is pressing the brake. That is the one which controls when we are high, super happy. Like if you are hijacked in drugs, you need a GABA to put the brake, slam the brake. Same thing with oxytocin, serotonin, endorphin. Sometimes too much of something, you need some other neurotransmitter to put a brake to neutralize it. And this is how human brain works. The reason why I'm talking about this psychology is I'm going to show you a technique. We are going to hit every transmitter. That's a technique I use in my storytelling. You might have seen my speeches. Some of you ask, what is that you do behind the scenes? This is what I do. When I deliver a speech, I look at myself deep inside. Am I taking my daily dose? Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. Am I getting too much agitated, too much excited? I need to put GABA, break in my speech. If I can hit within myself, that's what I'm going to hit with human. Remember, human beings, human expression doesn't change. Color of blood is blood. It doesn't change what nationality, what religion you are, right? So that's what you're going to do it. Are we clear with this? I want you to take a note. Daily dose, DOSC. You're going to ask yourself every time when you think about a story, what's my daily dose? How am I hitting my dose in my speech? It's a very important aspect, okay? Now, we understand these 5 fingers. Next, I'm going to give you a tool of transformation, a technique, which is all why we are here, right? What is the secret sauce behind scenes that we can create stories, right? There are different techniques, different methodologies. I streamline into another 5 fingers. If you can follow these 5 fingers carefully, associate with this neurotransmitters, I'll tell you how, you're going to create a compelling stories. That's called art. You're going to become an artist. Aesthetic, authentic, expressive, creative artist. Are you ready? Okay. Are we clear on these dopamines, neurotransmitters? Dose, remember, okay? Now, is there a magic formula? Let me tell you this. There is no magic pill for Dr. Phil. It's only the will and skill we create as a process of keep doing it again and again, right? Techniques will only work if you put into practice. So let's dive into the technique of storytelling. 5 C's. I want you to take a note of it. Let me show them here. 5 C's. The C number 1. Core message. Very important. What is my core message? Everything surrounds around this core message, the heartbeat. This is the heartbeat. Before even you think of a story, think about one thing. Not about introduction, not about conclusion, not about characters, nothing. A core message. And this is the heartbeat, which is going to regulate everything else secondary, okay? Everything. Core message. Now, C stands for core message. Now, this message can be of different types, right? A core message could be informational, motivational, inspirational, not just humorous, whatever the core message is, objective is. We're not going to dive into that. But you have to be clear. What's my core message? Now, to give you an example, I wanted to give a speech. I didn't know how to come with the title. You have to define your core message in 3 words. This is very important. If you can't describe your message in 3 words, that means you don't have a message. You see what I'm saying? Clarity is very, very powerful. You have to able to define your message in 3 words, not even a sentence, simple words. For instance, I went through a journey when I was struggling at my school. A lot of challenges. You might have heard a speech, how one teacher transformed my life. I wanted to come with a topic. I didn't know how to come with a core message. All I thought was, I want to be great. I started with the great. Great what? What do you want to become great? Who has helped me? Teacher. Great teacher. Be a great teacher. So that was my topic. Be a great teacher means I'm telling a story how to be a great teacher. That's my core message, right? Now, can anyone give you, can any one of you give an example of your core message in 3 words? Any volunteers? Let's see. Billy, just 3 words. I want to know what's your core message.
Love outdoors and fun.
Love outdoors and fun. Is it clear to all of you guys when he said love outdoors and fun? So he's trying to say connect with nature, for example, right? Love outdoors and have fun. And any other volunteers?
We are the one.
We are the one. Inclusiveness of everything. Don't discriminate. We are all one and inclusion of everything. How about people in online? Anybody online? 3 words. What do you think the core message? Just 3 words.
Meaningful, impactful conversations.
Meaningful, impactful conversation. It could be that.
I
So
got
there are
3
a lot of-
words.
In?
I got 3 words.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So the most
Do you
important.
want my 3 words?
Yeah, sure. Who is that?
Yeah. Lisa.
Lisa.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Lisa. Core message in 3 words.
Yeah, get your labs done. That's 4.
Get your,
Labs done.
okay, get your labs done. Sometimes the title is also invoking curiosity. For my international speech contest, I had a core message called, "How hard is your coconut?" What the heck this means, right? It created the curiosity. Sometimes you can also create a title, but I know the core message is all about ego. Coconut is a metaphor referring to ego. So bottom line is you have to be crystal clear like water, exactly in 3 words. This is not done correctly. All other aspects of mechanics, techniques, everything is gone wrong, right? Very important. Are we clear on the first C? Core message. Now comes the timeline of personal storytelling technique. The very first thing, message. Now, let's start with capture. You all know what capture means, right? Capture means grabbing the audience attention. Do you know we only have 30 seconds? This is the part I told about dose, dopamine. If you don't hit the dose, dopamine, right in 30 seconds, you lost the audience. Because moment they don't feel the reward, they don't want to listen to you, right? What is in it for me? Right? Very important. I call it as boom. You have to boom with an intro. It's called capturing. Now, there are different techniques, right? Today, if you saw me, how did I open my speech? Did I come and say, this is an art of storytelling? Or did I started with a story? I vividly remember that day, like it was yesterday, holding my bundle of joy then. So, remember, you see how you're thinking, what is a bundle of joy? Then I said, cup of coffee, you are laughing. That is all it requires. It requires that hook. If you don't hook the audience in the 30 seconds, the game is over. Now, there are different personalities out there. Some people may say, oh, you have a loud voice. My personality is not that loud. I'm a very soft-spoken person. When I say hook, doesn't have to be loud voice, noise. Hook could be a question. Hook could be a pause. Hook could be something, again, pointing towards your core message, right? If you are saying be a great teacher, for example, be a great teacher, the way I started was something like this. How many of you truly believe that a great teacher inspires? Let's be real. What does it take truly to be a great teacher? You don't just inspire, you survive your students first. You see the momentum, for example, I'm giving. So you have to grab your audience attention in some way. There are other speakers who use the technique of asking questions, right? So this is something you have to dig deeper inside. What are you comfortable with? Identify your authentic style. Don't copy me. Don't copy the speakers outside anybody. It's your own voice. What is the introduction I want to open my mouth? That opening words, whatever I'm opening, I need to grab the audience attention. Are we clear on this? Because you only have 30 seconds. Remember this. If you don't get the dopamine, intro, dopamine, D, very, very, very important. Okay. Now comes to the next C. Timeline. Then I will everything, you have to put a check mark. Okay, capture. I don't just open something for the sake of opening, right? You have to be very careful with opening. A lot of speakers do. I want to grab the audience attention, I make a jump and make a noise, but then it doesn't connect with the story. The game is over. It has to connect with your message. Every second, every word. Opening, connected with the core message in some way. Now comes second C, character. Now, second C is for character. It's very interesting. A story needs a character, right? Story needs a character. It could be the phone ring character, a character which is a machine, artificial intelligence. It could be a chair cup. It could be you. It could be a mom. It could be your dad. It doesn't matter. You need a character, right? The characters are very, very, very important. Otherwise, it's not a story, right? Today, we talked about the universe, Earth, Moon. Still, there was a character, right? There was a fictional plants was still there. Creation, there was a character, right? Big Bang, creation. So character is very important. Now, since we say it's a personal story, you have to involve personal story. That means at least you should be there, or someone related to you who is personal to you should be a friend or a brother, someone close to you you must involve in your story. Again, that story, the character you're bringing in should again align with core message. Are we clear on this? Now, expanding on the character, you can't just do with a dummy character, right? You have to, here where the technique comes in. The character needs environment, place, timeline, and this is where a lot of speakers, including me, struggle. I have limited time. How do I bring those characters and what environment to bring in? Today, if you noticed me, I didn't say where I was having a coffee. Did anybody think about it? I just said I was holding my bundle of joy. I was holding my coffee. You didn't even think about it. I could be in Starbucks, I could be in Pete's Cafe, or I could be anywhere, right? You can paint whatever you want. In this case, I don't even have to say I'm in Starbucks coffee. See what I'm saying? So this is another important aspect you need to ask yourself. When you bring in the character, again to my core message, what is the dialogue, right? Characters has to speak between you or other person, and each dialogue should somehow lead to the core message again. Every time, all you're saying is, you are basically you're emptying the cup before we said and filling in the cup, whatever the audience might have. Take the resentment, jealousy, and all those things, fill it with love, joy. You need to empty the cup and fill the cup. And each character is going to train their nervous system. It's very important. The character are going to train the nervous system. That character, what you are expressing, they're living in audience heart. Like watching a movie. When you watch a movie, even though it is a movie, you live in the character, right? When characters cry, sometimes we cry, don't we? It's very important to plot the characters. And now, how many characters should I introduce on the speech? That's another question, right? Environment, characters is always very confusing sometimes. How many characters do I need? It depends on the timeline you have about the speech. For a given 5 to 7 minute speech, I would recommend stick with 2 or 3 characters at the most. Don't bring in 10 characters. 3, you should be able to. All my speeches, only 2 or 3 characters. There are other characters who are called dummy characters. Sorry, I didn't say dummy. Those are all like Nancy in my speech. You might have heard be a great teacher. I said, I always sat in the front row, not because I was studious, but to gaze at pretty classmate Nancy. Her green hazel eyes, black curly hair, and hypnotic effect on me. The reason I said was to inject some humor to show that I'm a mischief student. See, there is a reason. I'm showing me as a mischief student, but the Nancy is out of the picture. You see, there are dummy characters. I shouldn't say dummy. What's a better word to say? There are characters which are not that significant. They just just come and go. These are not main characters. These are side characters, right? So you can always supporting. Good word. Supporting characters. You can always have a supporting character, but emphasis is not about them. Emphasis about the core message and the character. If you are playing the main role, you are the hero, right? Now, another important character, villain. So that villain is very tricky because throughout my speech, I make myself a hero and villain. For most of my, I'm a mischief student, I'm the villain, I'm the culprit. Then I've been like going through struggles and pains and suffering. Then someone came, helped me. Then I put a hero on my teacher. Always you need to have a contrast, like a character, hero, villain, and some supporting characters, whatever you decide. It's very important to have 2 main characters at least. One is you, mostly throughout your personal story, I believe it will be you, main character. And second, you need to also choose the villain and hero, how you want to play. It's a very important aspect. Are we clear on the characters? Just keep in mind. And this characters, the dialogue, also should hit the dopamine. Never forget the dopamine. Every time you navigate through the timeline of speech writing, always think, am I hitting the neurotransmitter? Some transmitter you have to hit somewhere in the brain, right? Otherwise you lose the audience, right? Now comes the very, very important aspect of conflict. This is the most important thing in our personal storytelling. Because if there is no conflict, if you know everything, what creates the movie suspense? Would you watch a movie suspense and thriller, or in the introduction they tell you everything is done deal? Why would you watch 3 hours movie, right? Or 2 hours movie? So there is always a suspense. Even when I started the speech, I could have directly said I was a cup of coffee. Why did I say bundle of joy? There is a technique. When I say bundle of joy, you are thinking, what is he going to talk about, right? The next suspense, in this case, immediately came cup of coffee. You see the narration of suspense? So you have to keep the conflict. That conflict should involve some suspense. Like audience should want to know what next. This is called invoking curiosity. When you say invoking curiosity, that's when you introduce this GABA. This is where people get anxiety, right? Curiosity to know, and the GABA neurotransmitter comes in. What next? You're engaging the audience. You started with a great speech, you introduce the character, but now the audience want to know where the character is going, where it is going, right? This is the most important thing, conflict. You need to have a strong conflict, again, not for the sake of having a conflict. That conflict should always go towards core message. Every time you write something, say something, do something, core message. Remember, this is something you have to explicitly do it. Initially, you have to push yourself. Later, it becomes the pull. I'll be clear on that one. Very important aspect, conflict. The fourth C is clarity. This is another aspect is you have a great opening, you introduce a character, you have a conflict resolution technique, you're using it, but then the clarity is very important, structure. This is where it comes like watching a movie transition. If you do not know how to put a transition, don't worry about it. Think of you're watching a movie. If suddenly see you're showing in the beach, all of a sudden, if I show that I'm playing tennis or something else, you can see the characters are abruptly jumping, right? So it's very important to have clarity. And this involves a technique. Because if you don't have a clarity, you cannot hit the dopamine, it doesn't connect to the core message, everything else is gone. Even though you had a nice character, nice plot, but then you miss the transition. If I say something, I'm having a conversation with my son, all of a sudden, in between, I'm abruptly ending the conversation, move to a next character. You make audience to think, what happened to this character? Moment audience start thinking to the previous scene, the game is over. The game is over. It's very important to have the clarity. Everything comes by practice. This is only an overview, okay? The last thing is call for action. Now, we started with boom, right? It's a boom. We started with a big. Ending also should have something, a take-home message, right? It could be bang, it could be silent. This is where your speech tells you, are you hitting the oxytocin? Because most of the hormones, at the end, how you leave the audience. Let me tell you this, audience will never remember what words you said. They will in fact forget everything. Only the dopamine works inside. They can only feel how they felt during your speech. They will not even remember. My coconut speech when I gave, I smashed the coconut on the stage. They remembered that for some reason. Wherever I go, oh, this guy broke the coconut. It's an ego. That's all they remember. They forgot my dialogue. They forgot everything. The whole notion of narrating a storytelling is not to make the audience to remember each and everything you said. It's to make them feel what you said and what is that call for action. You started with a boom. You also have to bang with the conclusion. Conclusion doesn't have to be love. Conclusion could be a subtle conclusion or bang conclusion. It has to be something, it's a last opportunity. This is something called your postpoint. That's the last word before you leave the world. Think of that way. Your last word, you're going to talk to your loved ones. What would be that word? See, you have to think about it. This is the last word you ever utter, last opportunity. What would you say to an audience? And that word is very important. After that, you have no other chance, no chance. And that is where it will hit the love hormone, oxytocin, all the emotional hormone, how we are going to deal with an emotion. So remember, 5 C's, very important. Core message. This is the heartbeat. Everything is your heartbeat. Everything should. Core message, capture, character, define personal characters, very important. Then have supporting characters, but don't emphasize on them. But you need to have a conflict. Conflict and resolution. You don't just conflict, lead with some solution, and then clarity, how you structure the speech. And finally, you have a last and greatest opportunity to open your mouth to have an everlasting impact. Now, your story is very important. Never leave the world without telling your story. Voice your story. Claim your glory. Share your victory. Thank you.
I'll give a minute. Evaluation? No?
She's doing the